All right, everybody, this is for Notes 2-4, more about linear equations. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So it says, we use this form when we know the slope and the y-intercept. So that's called slope-intercept form. So that form is y equals mx plus b. This is probably the one you guys are the most familiar with from Algebra 1. Next one is when we have a point and a slope. So we use this form when we're giving a point and a slope, or if we know 2 points. So that one goes y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Okay, so that's point, slope. And then standard form, probably the one that we see the least, but we still need to know it. That one goes ax plus by equals c. And it says a and b cannot be 0. All right, let's go ahead, slide down and get to work. All right, so notice what the directions say. It says, writing an equation given a point and a slope. So our easiest one given a point and a slope is point-slope form. So we're going to go ahead and use point-slope. So our point is 7, -1. I love to label things so I don't ever get confused and I know what's supposed to go where. So I'm going to call this my x1 and this is my y1. And then my slope is -3. So we're going to plug this into the point-slope equation. So let's just talk about what that was again. That's y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And we just go ahead, substitute in all the information we know. So I know what x1 is, I know what y1 is, and I know what m is. So we just plug in. So I'm going to get y minus y1 is actually -1, so put it in parentheses so we don't mess up our negatives, equals, my slope is -3, and then I get x minus x1, x1's positive, so I don't have to worry about putting a parenthesis on that one. Alright, go through simplify. We're going to take this and change this into slope-intercept form. That's the one that we see the most, but technically if they don't tell you what they want it in, this is correct. We'll simplify this, but this is correct. So I'm going to get y plus 1 equals, we're going to go ahead and distribute this -3, so I'm going to get -3x, negative times negative is a positive, make sure you're distributing that negative as well, plus 21. Alright, I'm going to put this in y equals mx plus b form. It is the most common one we use, so I'm going to subtract the 1 from each side. So I get y equals -3x plus 20. And that would be the equation of my line. Alright, let's go ahead and try the next one. So same situation, I have a point, I have a slope. Same process as the one before. Go ahead, pause your video here, complete the next one, and then check in, see if you got it right with me. Alright, so let's go ahead, plug in. I'm going to get y minus, again, this is my x1, this is my y1. So I'm going to get y minus y1, which would be 5, equals my slope is 2/9. And then I'm going to get x minus x1. Well, that's going to be a negative. So hopefully we're to the point that we could just say this is going to be a plus 9. All right. Let's go ahead, distribute. Y minus 5 is going to give me 2/9 x. And then when we distribute this, you just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, or hopefully you guys recognize this 9 and that 9 are going to cancel each other out, so I'm just going to have a 2. So since those cancel, I'm going to get a plus 2. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put it back into that slope-intercept form. So get y by itself. So we're going to add 5, so I get y equals 2/9 x plus 7. I'll go ahead and teach you guys a second method just in case you like this other method better. Honestly, I think this one's just fine, but it's always good to have different options. So let's go ahead and try it a different way. So if I wanted to get this in slope-intercept form, my other option is just starting off with slope-intercept. So slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. And then what you guys can do is, I know what m is, and I have an x and I have a y value. I can plug it in to solve for b, and then once I figure out what that intercept is, then I go ahead and put it back into this form. So hopefully you guys understood what I was saying there. So my y value I'm going to plug in would be this 5. My m value is 2/9. My x value is -9. And plus b. Okay, so our goal is to solve for b. So let's go ahead and simplify. These are going to cancel. Just be careful with that negative. So now I have 5 equals -2 plus b. Get b by itself. Add 2 to both sides. So I get 7 equals b. So now that I know what my intercept is, I know what my slope is, I know what my intercept, plug it into the equation. So I get y equals, my m is 2/9 x plus b, which is 7. And you get the same answer. So if you like this other method, go ahead and use it. If not, just stick to the first one. Alright, let's talk about this one. So this one is, what is an equation in point slope form? So it just wants me to leave this one in point slope. So let's go ahead, highlight that so we don't forget that. So we're going to put this into point slope form. That's actually going to be fairly simple for us. Less work. Alright, this time I'm given 2 points. So if you are given 2 points, you need to figure out what your slope is. We may or may not have forgot how to find slope, so I'll tell you guys how to find slope. So if you guys recall, slope is your change in y over change in x. So that would go y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so that's how we find our slope. So like always, I like to label my points, so I'm going to go, this is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. And then let's take those, plug into my slope formula. So y2 is 6 minus my y1 is 2 over my x2 is -3 minus my x1, which is 3. Alright, simplify. 6 minus 2, 4. -3 minus 3 would give me -6. And this can reduce, so I get -2/3. Alright, so this is going to be our step 1. Step 1, find the slope. Step 2, plug it into point slope form. Here's the thing, you have 2 different points you can choose from. So technically you can have 2 different answers on this type of question, because depending on which point you choose to use. So let's just say I'm going to use this point just because it's all positive, so I kind of like that. Alright, so now let's just plug it in. So it goes y minus y1, which is 2, equals my slope, -2/3, x minus x1. This right here is in point slope form. That's your answer, nothing else. Alright, again, let's go ahead, pause our video right here. I want you guys to try B. So give B a shot. Remember, step 1, find the slope. Step 2, plug it into slope-intercept form. Alright, so let's go through this one. So step 1, find our slope. Again, I like to label x1, y1, x2, y2. Change in y over change in x. So I'm going to get 4 minus 0 over 0. It's going to be a minus 5, so that's going to give me a plus 5. So this will give me a 4/5. Okay, after I have my slope, we're going to go ahead and put it into point slope form. So technically you guys could have two different answers on your page, so I'll go through both of those. So for this one, I'm going to use point -50. So if you use this point, this should have been your answer. So I would have got y minus y1, y minus 0, we do not, I'll write it down just so we see that. So y minus 0 equals 4/5. This is going to give me an x minus -5, so that's going to give me a plus 5. Okay, do not leave it like this. I will be highly upset if you leave it like this. Do not have y minus 0. Do you know what y minus 0 is? Yes, that's just y. So this is going to be y equals 4/5 x plus 5. This is in point slope form. Your other option for this one would have been if you used 0,4. So let's look at that one. What's that one going to look like if I use 0,4? So same process. I'm going to get y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Again, please simplify this for me. Do not leave this as x minus 0. So this is going to give me y minus 4 equals 4/5 x, because x minus 0 is x, and we don't need that parenthesis. Alrighty. Go ahead and flip to the next page. Alright, so this one says, what is the equation of a line y equals 3/2 x minus h in standard form? Use integer coefficients. So let's go ahead, highlight standard form. We want to put this in standard form. Standard form, again, one of our least common ones we see, but you still should know it. So standard form goes ax plus by equals c. Something I want to note on this, for this to truly be in standard form, your a value needs to be positive. So you cannot have the negative out front. If you have a negative, just divide everything by negative and switch all the signs. So we want that a value to be positive. How about let's just put like, so we want that a value to be positive for standard form. Alrighty, so now we're going to go ahead, take this equation, we're going to manipulate it, and, oh, the other thing I need to mention, this is a good one to mention as well. In standard form, a and b need to be integers. They need to be integers. So, in other words, you're not going to have any fractions. If you have a fraction, you're going to get it wrong. Got it? If you have a fraction in your final answer for standard form, it is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Alright, so I will show you guys how to make sure that you don't have those fractions. Or you don't have decimals. It needs to be an integer. Alright, so let's go through this guy. So we're going to get y equals 3/2 x minus 8. Okay, so I just told you you are not allowed to have fractions. So the first thing we should do is just get rid of the fraction. So in order for me to get rid of a fraction, we need to clear the fraction or find the least common multiple or the least common denominator. So this denominator is 1, this denominator is 2, and this denominator is technically 1. So my least common denominator would be 2. So to get rid of that fraction, you're just going to multiply everything, the entire thing, by 2. So we're going to take this entire thing and multiply it by 2. Okay? So I'm going to get 2 times y is 2y. When I multiply 3/2 by 2, the 2 and the denominator 2 are going to cancel each other out, so I'm just left with a 3x. And then I do 2 times -8, which is -16. Alright, beautiful. You already have no more fractions, and that's our goal. So there's no more fractions. So now I want to get this ax plus by equals this constant. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 3x to the other side to get it in that form. Alright, so now I'm going to have negative 3x, and then the 2y is positive, so it's plus 2y equals negative 16. Okay, you're almost there, so hopefully you guys remember I said this a value needs to be a positive. So in order for me to get that to be a positive, you could multiply the entire thing by a negative. So we're going to just multiply this whole thing by a negative. When we do this, we're ultimately just switching the signs. So negative times a negative is going to give me a positive 3x, a negative 2y, and a positive 16. This is now in standard form. Correct. So again, standard form, no fractions, no decimals, must be integers. Second, your a value, your leading coefficient, needs to be positive. Alright, let's go ahead and try this next one with the decimals. Alright, so we have y equals 9.1x plus 3.6. Okay, we have a problem. We have decimals. So hopefully you guys recognize, or we're kind of familiar with our decimals. This first place is called the tenths spot. Tenths, 2 overs, hundredths, 3 over, thousandths, so on. Okay, so if I multiply, so since this is a tenth, if I multiply by 10, then it's going to move my decimal one place to the right. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So to move this decimal, or to get rid of this decimal, we need to multiply everything by 10. Me multiplying by 10 is going to move the decimal one spot to the right. If there was 2 decimal spots, that would be the hundredth, so you would multiply everything by 100, and then you're going to move it 2 spots, so on and so forth. So step 1, to get rid of those decimals, we're going to multiply this whole thing by 10. Alright, so we're going to get 10 times y is going to give me a 10y equals, again, multiplying this by 10 is going to move my decimal one spot, so I'm going to get 91x. Plus, same idea here, we're going to move it one spot, which would give me 36. And now I have no decimals. Remember, decimals are fractions, can't have decimals. Alright, now we want to get it in the form ax plus by equals c, so I'm going to subtract that 91x from each side. So I'm going to get negative 91x plus 10y equals 36. And again, be careful, I do not want a negative on this a value. This needs to be a positive. So we're just going to multiply this entire thing by a negative, or in other words, switch signs. So I'm going to get positive 91x minus 10y equals negative 36. Alright, moving on. So this one says, graphing an equation using intercepts. Graphing an equation using intercepts. So standard form is nice because it gives us intercepts. Or we do this method called the cover-up method. Hopefully we remember the cover-up method. So I'm going to use the cover-up method. So what the cover-up method does is it gives me my x-intercept and my y-intercept. Well, if you have 2 points on a line, you can graph a line, right? Any 2 points makes a line. So we just need 2. I can graph a line. We're done. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to go down here and show you that cover-up method. Okay, so if you want to find the x-intercept, you cover up the y. Okay, it won't make sense to cover up the x because now you don't have any x's, so you can't find an x-intercept. Okay, so we're going to cover up the y. What we're really doing is we're plugging in 0 for y. And anything times 0 is 0, and it's just going to disappear. That's why we can just cover it up. Alright, so x-intercept, I'm going to cover up that negative 4y. So if I cover up that negative 4y, then I just have a 2x equals 8. And then we solve this. So to solve this guy, I'm going to divide by 2. So I get x equals 4. This is a point, so this is x value is positive 4, the y value is 0. So my x-intercept is 4, 0. Okay, so now if you want to find the y-intercept, you need to cover up the x, because we don't want the x, we're looking for the y. So if I cover up the x, I'm covering up a 2x, so I'll be left with a negative 4y equals 8. Solve this, divide by a negative 4, divide by a negative 4. So now I get y equals negative 2. Okay, again, this is a point, so this is when x is 0, y is negative 2. Okay, now that you guys have your 2 points, we're just going to go ahead and connect them. Plot them, connect. So 4, 0, x value is 4, y value is 0. So that means right 4, up none. This one means right or left 0 and down 2. Down 2. So those are my 2 spots on my graph, and then we're going to connect that with a nice straight line. I'm doing this on a tablet, so I'm not the best straight line drawer, so mine's going to look like crap, but your guys's, hopefully you have a ruler and you can make it look prettier than mine. Make sure we're putting arrows on both ends of our lines. Lines go on forever and ever and ever. So you need to put those arrows to show that it continues. Alright, go ahead, pause our video, do example 7 on your own. Unpause it when you're ready. Okay, so this one, again, cover up method. So to find the x-intercept, I cover up the y. I'm going to get 3x equals negative 15. Hopefully I don't have to show this step. Divide each side by 3, so I get x equals negative 5. Okay, defined, so this is negative 5, 0. Find the y-intercept, we cover up the x. So I'm going to get 5y equals negative 15, so y equals negative 3. So this would be 0, negative 3. Let's go ahead and connect those, plot them and connect them. So when I plot this, I'm at negative 5, 0, 0, negative 3. And again, connect this with a nice straight line. Arrows on both ends. Final page. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do some word problems. So it says the amount of time that a traffic light at an intersection should remain green is determined by Greenschild's formula G equals 2.1 n plus 3.7, where G is the green time in seconds and is the average number of vehicles traveling in each lane per light cycle. Find the green time for a traffic signal on a street that averages 38 vehicles in each lane per cycle. Okay, this is a very straightforward question. This is just really just substituting in, find the green time. So again, green time is, this G represents green time, how long is it green, and this N is your number of vehicles. So this particular question, this 38 is representing my N value. So all we have to do is take that N value, plug it into my formula, get the green time. So I'm going to get G equals 2.1, N is 38 plus 3.7. Alright, so if we did this, and personally I despise decimals. If there's decimals, go for a calculator. I don't really care. If there's fractions, don't you dare take out a calculator. So if you did 2.1 times 38, that's going to give me 79.8. Or if you guys just want to do it the long way, do it off to the side. Plus my 3.7. Okay, and if we add these together, that's what, 83.5? Yep, 83.5. This is my green time. Sorry if you guys can hear the landscapers outside. And green time, you need to put your units, so green time is in seconds. All right, next one. How many vehicles would be necessary in each lane for the green time to reach 2 minutes? So now I'm given green time. So this is my green time. 2 minutes is my green time. And then we're going to go ahead and figure out how many vehicles do I need to have a whole 2 minutes. Okay, so first thing, if our green time is in seconds, so step 1, we need to take our 2 minutes and put that into seconds. We know there's 60 seconds in 1 minute, so 60 times 2, 120 seconds. Okay, now we're going to plug in for G. So I'm going to get 120 equals that 2.1 N plus 3.7. Okay, go ahead, solve. We're solving for n, so we need to isolate. I'm going to subtract 3.7 first. So that would give me, what, 116.3? 116.3 equals this 2.1 n. Okay, divide by 2.1, divide by 2.1. Let's pretend that we don't have calculators. I will show you guys how to do long division if you guys forgot. Or I think some of you guys didn't even learn long division. So let's go ahead and do long division real quick. So inside would be the 116.3. On the outside is my 2.1. Okay, so you're asking yourself, oh, and then what we want to do is we want to get rid of these decimals. So I have one decimal place and one decimal place. So if I multiply both of these numbers by 10, I can get rid of the decimals. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to get 21 and 1,163. All right, let's go ahead and divide that. So you're asking yourself, how many times does 21 go into 11? Can't go into 11, so it's how many times can 21 go into 116? And that is, I think 5. So 5. So you need to put it above the 6 since I'm going into 116. And then you multiply it back. So 5 times 1 gives me that 5. And then 5 times 2 would give me that 10. Long division, we always subtract from each other. So when I subtract this, I would get 11. Okay, and then you bring down the next number. Okay, so how many times would 21 go into 113? It would be a 5 again. So my 5 is above this 3. We already know when we multiply that back, that's 105. And we're going to subtract again. Subtracting that, I get 8. Alright, so now if you guys notice, 21 doesn't go into 8. So what you do is you add a decimal and add a 0. And then you get to bring down this 0. So 80. So how many times does 21 go into 80? And then carry up that decimal just in case. So 21 will go into 80 3 times. And I don't really need to go past this because we're talking about vehicles, right? I can't have 55.3 vehicles. So would we round up or would we round down? That's the main question. Well, if I did 55, that wouldn't be enough vehicles to hit that 120. And it says, and we want it to be at least 2 minutes, that light time, at least 2 minutes. So we need to actually round this one up. So if I round up this 55.3, we're going to get about 56 vehicles. Some fun long division for you guys. All right, last little bit, parallel and perpendicular lines. So hopefully you guys remember, parallel lines, the slopes are the same. Parallel lines, slopes equal. Okay, perpendicular lines are slopes are opposite reciprocals. Opposite meaning opposite sign. If it's positive, it's negative. If it's negative, it's positive. Reciprocal meaning flipping the fractions. Alright, so same slopes. That means the slope of my first one is equal to my slope of my second line. Okay, opposite reciprocals, this would mean the slope of my first one times the slope of my second one would equal -1. Because when you multiply reciprocals, it equals 1, and then since they're opposites, it's going to be negative. Alright, let's last two, and then we're finished. So it says the line of a parallel line to 4x plus 2y equals 7 through 4, -2 in slope-intercept form. Alright, so that's like a lot to decipher. Let's decipher this. So we know it's parallel, so parallel means it's going to have the same slope. And then our final answer needs to be in slope-intercept form. Alright, step one, let's go ahead and figure out what the slope is. So this is in standard form right here. And the way you find slope in standard form is, I keep forgetting. It's opposite of A divided by B. Opposite of A divided by B. So that's going to be, opposite of A would be a -4, divided by B would be a 2. So my slope on this guy would be -2. Okay, so if my slope of my first line is -2, that means the slope of my second line is also -2. It's also -2 because they have the same slope. Okay, so now I have a slope and I have a point, so we need to put it into point slope and then simplify it into slope intercept. So we're going to start with point slope because I have a point, I have a slope. So remember, point slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, plugging it in. This is my x1, this is my y1. So I'm going to get y minus -2 is going to give me a +2 equals, my slope is -2, x minus 4. Okay, we're going to go ahead and distribute. So I get y plus 2 equals -2x plus 8. Make sure when we distribute, you distribute that negative as well. And then last step, we're going to subtract that 2 over. So we get y equals -2x plus 6. This would be my slope-intercept form of the line parallel to 4x plus 2y equals 7 going through point 4, -2. Alright, last but certainly not least is the line, we want to find a line perpendicular. So this is nice because this is giving it to me in slope-intercept. So there's my slope, and it wants us to put it in standard form. Alright. Okay, so the slope of my first line is 2/3. So my slope of my perpendicular line needs to be the opposite reciprocal, opposite sign, so now it's negative. Reciprocal, flipping the fraction. So my new slope on my perpendicular line is -3/2. Okay, so we want it with this slope going through this point. So again, I have a point, I have a slope, we use point slope. So I have x1, y1. Plug it into point slope. Y minus y1 equals my slope, -3/2, x minus x1. Alright, let's go ahead and simplify. So I'm going to get y minus 6 equals -3/2 x. Alright, so from here, we need to get this into standard form. So again, with standard form, it's ax plus by equals c. A needs to be positive, and there can be no fractions. So let's go ahead right here. Let's get rid of the fractions. Multiply by your common denominator of everything. So my common denominator between 1, 1, and 2 would be 2. So we're going to go ahead and multiply everything by 2. Okay, so I'm going to get a 2y minus 12 equals, this 2 and this 2 will end up canceling each other out, so I have -3x. Okay, so again, your option, we'll go ahead and just, let's subtract the 2y over. You can do it any way you want. So minus the 2y, minus the 2y. So we're going to go ahead and get negative 12 equals negative 3x minus 2y. Okay, final step, ax plus by. We need this a value to be positive, so I'm going to multiply this entire thing by a negative, and I'm going to flip it at the same time. So remember, reflexive means I can just flip on each side of the equal sign. So when I finally write this, I'm going to get a positive 3x plus 2y equals positive 12, and this would be our perpendicular line in standard form. Alright, that is it for notes. What are we doing here? 2.4. Alright, have a good day, guys.